Hello, my name is Aries Pollard, and this is my final for Culinary Arts 142 Applied Food Science. In this video, I will be preparing a meal using a protein, a starch, vegetables, and a sauce. I will also be explaining the science behind each food item that will complete my meal. So let's begin. I'm going to show you the ingredients for this meal. I have 5 chicken drumsticks for my protein. I have 1/4 of an onion, an orange bell pepper, and a whole yellow bell pepper for my vegetables, and 1 box of cilantro rice for my starch. And then I'll be going over the ingredients later for my teriyaki sauce. Okay? Gonna preheat the oven at 425. So while the oven is heating, I want to talk about the 4 basic food molecules. Water, fats, carbohydrates, and proteins are the 4 basic molecules. Module 2 goes in depth as far as the science behind these molecules. Molecules that even if you are not cooking or not the cook in your home, that you may still come encounter with on a daily basis. Water, for instance, the big H2O, is made up of 2 hydrogen atoms and 1 oxygen atom. Water is found in every food source and important to cooking. Water has lots of energy that transfers to food through heat. It is also found in almost everything we cook to eat. Water is a polar molecule, meaning that water dissolves. The second molecule is fats, which are oils and butters. These fats are made up of 2 molecules, hydrogens and carbons, that are bonded together. Carbons like to be bonded, and mostly it's bonded to hydrogen atoms. These fats are nonpolar, which means they are not dissolvable in water, which is why when you mix water and oil, the oil tends to stay at the top, or the water tends to stay at the top of the oil. It doesn't combine. It doesn't absorb each other. Oil pulls out a lot of the flavor in the food during cooking and also can enhance the flavor as well. When cooking food at high temperatures, oil is a great molecule to use because it will stay a liquid. Butter is also a fat, which we mostly find and read on nutrition labels as saturated or unsaturated fats. This type of fat adds flavor to the food when heat is put to it. Thirdly, we have carbohydrates. This molecule is bonded together to make rings. Carbohydrates are a combination of 6 carbon and 6 hydrogen and 12 oxygen atoms. Glucose, which is the basic bond of this molecule, it holds all the carbohydrates together and allows them to stick. Lastly, we have proteins. Proteins are a string of amino acids. The amino acids are the building blocks to the proteins. This polypeptide is a long chain of amino acids. These proteins in cooking change or can change when exposed to heat or acid. When proteins are heated, they unravel or denature. Separating the protein either by heat or acid creates new flavor and forms a new mesh around the source of food and traps the water inside. Now that I've explained the basic molecules, I'm going to begin seasoning in my protein, the chicken drumsticks. So before I season it, I want to add my fats on there, which is going to be my oil. Don't want to touch it. Prevent the spread of bacteria. So I'm going to place my chicken drumsticks on my baking sheet of aluminum foil. The aluminum foil also acts as a barrier between the baking sheet and the chicken, the meat, because I don't want it to stick. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to add some oil to my hands and rub it onto my chicken as a lubricant. This is going to prevent the chicken from burning, and it's going to seal in all the seasonings and spices that I'm going to add in just a second. So you just want to coat it, lightly coat it, and rub it around your chicken. Get it nicely greased. And so, as I mentioned, as I sprinkle the seasonings and the spices and the herbs, it's gonna also act as a glue. I like to use seasonings and spices that go well together, not just by taste, but also the way that they smell as well. So I'm gonna add the sage. Sage is really light. And when we think of scents or flavor, it's mostly with what we taste and what we smell. Rosemary. The famous black pepper. And this is strong as far as its pungency. Some kosher salt. We'll just do a little sprinkle. Don't want too much. This will add a nice flavor to our meat. So the spices like black pepper and the seasoning salt and the little bit of kosher salt. For the herbs, I just used the sage, the rosemary. These flavorings are part smell, part taste. Much of what we humans love about cooking and eating in general is the way food smells and then it tastes. We taste with our taste and smell the odors and the receptors triggered by the specific chemicals in the foods. These herbs and spices are volatile, which means that even though that they're small and light enough to evaporate from the source, they fly through the air, right? So this allows them to rise with our breath and into our nose where we can detect them. But if exposed to heat, they become really, really, really volatile, which means they really blend fast with their food source when they're exposed to high temperatures. So in Module 3, we focused on cooking methods and the utensils. So here, I will be using my heat source, the oven, to bake my chicken. And the heating source, which is the oven, is conduction. It uses the thermal energy and is being exchanged from one particle to a nearby one, means of collision or movement. So in other words, this thermal energy is going inside the oven, will be making direct contact with the chicken. In Module 6, we also discussed more about the proteins, which is my meat source, because I'm using chicken. According to the book, the older the feed, the better, because it will bring out the flavor. So the older the chicken, it will bring out more of the flavor. So when we put this in high temperature, the oven is going to be, well, right now the chicken's about 120 degrees, which is like raw, right? So in food, in cooking food, we want it to be above 140, and like as far as chicken, we want it to get at least to 160 or above, because then all the bacteria that is in the chicken will be cooked and will be free from being digested. So another cooking method involved in this meal is going to be the pan frying. So I'm going to pan fry my vegetables, which you're going to see. And that is going to allow the onions and the orange and the yellow bell peppers all come together, and you'll see, because the heat is going to make them softer. And I'm going to also add the oil as a barrier between the skillet, the pan, and my vegetables, because I don't want them to burn either, because it's going to be at such a high temperature. So one more heat source was going to be my Instapot for my starch, which is my rice. And that's going to cook while I put my chicken in the oven. So the molecules are going to heat. Actually, the Instapot is an air convection device, which allows the movement in the fluids from a warm region to a cooler one. So the molecules are going to be heated like the water or air being transferred into the food, which is going to be the rice, giving the energy to the molecules. The rice will be a lot softer because the cooking method allows the rice to cook softly. So in goes my chicken. So just as the chicken is in the oven baking, I will start on the cilantro lime rice. I like the combination of flavors because they go so well, not just in smell, but taste as well. Cilantro has a nice aroma to it mixed with the lime flavor for taste, which gives it a nice balance with the acidity from the lime. Module 12 discussed that there are over 100,000 kinds of varieties of rice. Long grain rice, it tends to require the largest portion of rice to water, or water to rice. Medium grain rice requires less water and develops tender grains that cling to each other. Short grain rice is only slightly longer than it is wide, and otherwise similar to the medium grain. Sticky rice is also called waxy and glutinous or sweet rice. It requires the least amount of water. The cooking of rice is a matter of introducing the moisture throughout the grains and heating them enough to gelatate and soften the starch granules. As I'm chopping the vegetables, let me just discuss the information about the vegetables, which was found in Module 9. And I learned that it kind of dispelled some of the confrontation or the controversy over what's a fruit, what's a vegetable. So this module, I learned that tomatoes are vegetables. Oh, sorry, they're fruit. Onions, which I started chopping in the first part, they are from the bulb. They have a bulb shape, which are made up of swollen leaf spaces or scales that store energy in the beginning, and then they last long for a growing season. And they create a defense mechanism which gives off that smell, which irritates our eyes. So, it just to ward off the predators from eating the vegetables. Onion adds the savory taste and also gives its meaty quality, which adds to the depth to many dishes in the many different cultures. The peppers, I wanted to slice them because I wanted to make sure that they had an evenly cooked temperature. And the pigment in the yellow and orange peppers, which we see, is that the yellow peppers are helpful for the oxidative damage in the eyes. So if you're cooking with like the red peppers, it also provides vitamin A. The stirring that you continuously do for the peppers is to make sure that your onions and your vegetables don't burn on the heating utensil, which is the pan. That's why I put some oil in there to create a barrier between the heat source and the food source. So here is my dinner finished. It is my protein, which is the chicken, my vegetables, which is the sliced onions and yellow and orange peppers, and then my cilantro and lime rice, and my sauce, which I made, which is teriyaki sauce. So that concludes my video using a protein, a starch, vegetables, and a sauce. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed.